Hello and good afternoon. This is another Style Speaks edition on August the 2nd, 2014. We're on the historic campus of Howard University talking to a very, I call him my little brother. We got kind of close, but we have some really interesting topics to talk about. Mr. James Allen.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
How you doing, my friend?
Hey, well, not too bad yourself.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Great.
All right. Well, I'm glad you took this time out this afternoon to come and talk to me. I mean, you know, we've gotten to talk on the phone and in events or whatever, but I wanted, you know, like the world to kind of know some of your story and who Mr. James Godson Allen is.
Well, you know what? Thanks for having me. You know, didn't mind the drive from Frederick. You know, the navigation had me cut up some roads. I ain't know what was going on.
Okay. We need to get you about a Frederick a little bit more often.
Yeah. No, something. Gotta get me out the country.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Well, a part of the reason why, well, tell everybody where you're from, first of all.
I'm originally from Bronx, New York. Grew up in Gun Hill Projects. Moved to Maryland actually in '86. Maryland was more like a winter home, and always been back.
Wait a minute, Projects, winter home.
Yeah, hey.
I'm not okay. I'm having an issue with winter home and projects in the same sentence. Okay, what's up with that?
Well, you know, home is where the heart is.
Okay.
And so, even
We're
though
gonna start clowning already.
Yep. See, it started already.
See, I listen to what people say. So you know, you can't just like say anything to me, and I'm like. Did he just say projects and winter home?
You know what? We're not gonna bring up the velvet jacket.
Whatever.
But yeah, you know, I lived in New Hampshire Avenue down in Silver Spring, and it was a place more like I resided there.
Okay.
But my grandmother still was in where the area I grew up in the Bronx, and that was just home for me. That's where everyone I knew, and that was a comfortable spot for me. Okay. So I called that home, and then we moved to Frederick in 1994, and been in Frederick ever since.
So you don't really make it to DC unless it's like a job or a project that you're working on. You don't make it to these parts too often, do you?
Not as much as I used to. My younger days, I used to come out clubbing, and hanging out. But now with being a full-time dad and all the ventures I'm working on, not as much as I would like.
Okay, well, I understand that, full-time dad. Well, since you mentioned full-time dad, we're going off script here, which I like, because that's how you always like to have scripts, because sometimes you'll say something, okay, I want to talk about that.
Okay.
So let me just, you know, what's the late-night guy who just tears up the cue cards and throws them
Jimmy Fallon?
Okay, I think he just tears them and throws them up, but I'm not tearing mine, that's some good shit on mine. But talk about the family piece. So you say you're a full-time dad. I know you have two sons.
Yes.
Beautiful sons, and so for you, that's got to be challenging in the work that you do, and we're going to definitely get into the work. But how has that been for you being a full-time dad? And I'm sure that has its challenges sometimes, but I'm sure it's the most privileged role you have.
Definitely. I've had my oldest since he was 4, and he's now 15. I've had my youngest since he was 6 months. And it's definitely a privilege because now a lot of men, especially black men, have their children full time. And you know, I have to give their mom props for that because she said, you know, they need to be raised by a man in order to know how to be men.
Right.
So, and then it has its downside to where, you know, it's, you know, hurt some relationships that I'm very involved with my son.
Right. So that could be a little taxing on your extracurricular, you know, your female, you know, counterparts, if you will.
Correct, especially when they don't have kids.
Right.
You know, we did sports all year round.
They want some time, and they want your time. You're trying to be like, look, I have 2 children to raise, but baby, I need you to spend some time with me.
Man, let me tell
Especially when they look like they got a fine specimen like yourself.
Man,
you know, it's like, I want to go showboat you, baby. Come on, Doc. Come on, let's go out on the town.
Look, this is only 2 years in the making. We ain't look like this all the time.
Oh, okay.
You know?
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's
but I doubt if it was much different. But anyway, go on. You're being modest, but go ahead.
But yeah, because you know, women say they want a good man, but boy, look, let's face it, women are selfish. Women are beautiful, but they want their time.
Right.
And a lot of my guy friends we talk about, you would think being responsible fathers that they would love it. And they're like, oh man, he's a great one. He works, he takes care of his kids. No.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you just had these.
That's kind of cute in the beginning, but it kind of fake, right? That little early stages. Oh, he's, and then it's like, okay, well, they get that jealousy piece, and you're spending a lot more time with your children, whatever. I mean, you don't really think, it's really difficult to come out and say that, but that's what they're thinking. Not enough time would be. So so you found challenges in that, I'm sure, but you've been able to work through that and kind of have a successful situation now, right?
Yeah, I have a blessed situation right now. She's been by my side, between the hospital stays, which I'm sure we'll touch later on, and she's helping out with the boys. So it's definitely been a blessing. And that's just a part of being responsible as a parent. Once you become a parent, your own wants and needs go out the window.
Absolutely.
So everything I do now is a sacrifice for them. So.
Okay, well that's a wonderful thing, man. And before we move much further, and we were talking about relationships, I have a female friend who's been a friend of mine for so many years, and she is like your biggest fan. And I don't want to get you in trouble at home, but you're gonna have to give a shout out and say hello to Crystal.
Hey, Crystal.
Say hi to Crystal.
Hey, Crystal. How you doing, I've been seeing you on Facebook, Crystal. I see the comments, Mom.
Okay.
Thank you for the love.
All right. Well, that was for you, Crystal. You owe me. But anyway, seriously. So let's kind of transition into. We talked a little bit about the family and the relationship piece, and but how I got introduced to you is because you were doing some runway modeling. Mm-hmm. So how did the modeling piece come in and then we'll talk about the other part, but how did the modeling piece come in? How did you start doing that?
Well, honestly, I think that was just a door that the man upstairs opened up. I actually opened up via for me doing my physique bodybuilding with NPC. And my girlfriend I'm with now had, said, why don't you look into doing a little bit more modeling? And, we put some things out there, and my first photographer, his name's John, does amazing work. Matter of fact, the Superman picture that you like.
I love that,
Yeah, he took that picture, so...
it's just so reminiscent of you. I kind of get your story, and I know your story, so you just really epitomize to me what that means. So that's why I really kind of gravitate to that picture.
Yeah, and
so you.
I love it, but I see so many people, because Superman was such an iconic and strong figure. Everyone is Superman, so that's why I started leaning more with God's son, because a lot of my beliefs and my strength really comes from that.
Right.
But anyhow.
Yeah, just for image sake. Just kind of sort of that whole strong, man who, pretty much knows how to handle his business, whatever, and however you want to interpret it. That's how, I put a couple of other things on there, but we're not going to put it. But it's a positive thing. It's a good thing.
Well,
the whole, and that usually is the case. I had, a mutual friend of ours on the show, and we were talking about models and different, and don't get me wrong, I try not to speak to too many models. I get a lot of requests to have conversations. Everybody has a story, everybody has their path, and a lot of people are taking the whole fashion industry very serious. And I don't just want to just talk to people in the industry, I want to talk to people who I find entertaining and of course are fashion forward, and who thinks that fashion and style is important, and you have a sense of fashion style. But a lot of fitness, we're going to get into that, a lot of the bodybuilders and fitness guys, if you will, are being, of course, because they have nice bodies, nice physiques, they're being approached to be models. So it's a lot of transition in those two fields now. I don't think early on, way back in the day when I was doing modeling, that it was so much of that you had to necessarily be a fitness model. Today, it's more emphasis on fitness and health, of course, as it was maybe in the late 70s, early 80s. I'm dating myself, mid 80s or whatever. But models, it was more about how you, of course you had to look good in your clothes, but it wasn't so much about the body structure. You had to fit a certain height guideline. You couldn't be larger than a 42 regular, maybe a large. You couldn't be taller than this, foot couldn't be. So if you kind of fit those parameters underneath, it didn't really so much matter unless you were just, you couldn't be big and fat, of course. So you know what I'm saying? So that whole fitness piece is kind of easy, I think, for guys who are in the bodybuilding industry to transition. But to me, it's not always such an easy transition, because just because you look good on the outside, and then a lot of the photographs that I'm seeing are, and I've teased you about it, it's like, okay, well, are you a model or are you a porn star?
Well,
you know, because, and I'm gonna let you touch on that, because a lot, and I joke, because they're beautiful pictures and images, but I'm like, well, where's the clothes?
Exactly.
So I'm like, if you're modeling, you're modeling other people's garments or a look, you know, we're looking for how the clothes fit. But I'm looking at nipples and all these pecs and all this. So I'm confused about what a model is supposed to be and how that transition has just kind of taken over. You understand what I'm saying?
And I can address that with you in so many different levels. Well, first, to go back to the other part, how we got introduced, how we met. I actually had gotten to the runway. I met Wayne actually via Model Mayhem. He had the audition for it, and I made that. So Ola selected me. That's how we met. Now back to the fitness and the modeling thing. It's funny because even the head of MPC in our area, Gary Udit, he was mentioning how now physique guys are going to take off and be the lead probably in bodybuilding, because now the supplement companies are wanting us, the modeling agencies are wanting us, but the problem that I'm having to come across because of my size, you don't get many designers.
Right.
Because agencies still like Ford and these other big companies, they still want guys like they need to eat.
Right.
And I was just speaking to Andrew Noel about this last night. It's like, you know, they still look for the guys who are not to meet every day.
Right.
The everyday man likes to eat.
Right,
You know?
pretty much. Got a little bit of a stomach, you know, a little something going on there, yeah.
Yeah. So we get trapped, like for myself, I get trapped in the fitness.
Right.
Where that's my genre, and I'm going to have to get used to it. Whereas
Right.
I actually been trying to rebel against that, like, no, I want to put some clothes on. I clean up nicely.
Right,
I want to wear a suit.
Right,
I want to wear a nice outfit.
Right,
you know,
right.
I want to bring some masculinity back
Right,
to the game, which to me, I feel a lot of pieces are lacking right now.
Right.
You know, and that's not to the industry, but there's really a lot of there's not much masculinity back into with the fashion. And I look at that, especially with me raising my son. You know, I got kids wearing 3 sizes too small skinny jeans, and you know that men should be wearing skinny jeans when they can't lift their legs up.
Right. Well, see, that's the whole. Well, you're giving your perception and your viewpoint, because you say the word masculinity, and I think a couple of things. You know, fashion has definitely transcended. You know, with the bright colors, the neon, the pinks, the peach colored jeans, and you know, when I was in school, you would get like kicked to the curb. I mean, but that's in vogue. The basketball players, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, they had the crop pants and dress shoes and the pedal pushers and all that. So I don't need them cars.
Okay.
So you know, it's like it's acceptable now. So I love that piece that fashion has come. Now the masculinity part, yes, I think a lot of it is a little soft, a lot of it, but I embrace the fact it's not so much the clothes, it really kind of comes back to the man who's in the clothes.
Exactly.
So whether you're wearing some pink colored jeans and some white tennis shoes with a lavender shirt, if you are wearing it with confidence and you present enough masculinity in it, it's still going to look good.
Exactly.
Whether you're feminine or not, personally. So, you know, and that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother topic, but it's interesting when you say when fitness or bodybuilders get into the field, because typically bodybuilders and the fitness guys, the muscle guys are really, and you use the word masculine, usually the more masculine. And back in the day, more the models that were trying to get into the industry, it was considered, you know, gay, a little less masculine to be a model. Guys would just walk around and say, "Oh, I want to be a model." You better not tell your mother. You better not tell your mother, father, when you go home, "Oh, I want to be a model." I'm like, "What do you mean? You know what I'm saying? Boy, we gonna get you put a football in your head. Right. So you know the whole dynamic. But now, you know, of course, with gay rights and all that stuff, that's just it's a different time. So there's a lot of more acceptance and all that kind of stuff now. So, but it's interesting to have this conversation with somebody like you, who's kind of started in fitness and bodybuilding, and you're a competitor and all that kind of stuff, and decide to go ahead and transition. And you did more than try. You haven't just tried modeling. You really want to pursue it. So. So to me, that's interesting in how that even happens, and how you actually even balance the two. And you know, and my whole thing with youth today, and I'm gonna shut up in a minute. And my whole thing with youth today is when people, you know, try to tackle on so many things. It's so everybody's grinding. And I say this a lot, everybody's grinding, you know, the more titles and the more things you do, the better. And you can't really be an expert or, you know, show expertise in any one thing. I think if you have all these other things, we can all be good at many things, but you're not really consider yourself, you don't really put that time and effort in that one piece if you got all these other features that you're doing. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly. And
how do you feel about that?
But that also goes to the rule of thumb. They said, I forget the amount of hours they say a professional athlete has to train to reach that echelon of, you know, a Jordan is or a Jeter is. There's a certain amount of hours you got to put in. I calculated my hours one day last year, and I trained in a month's time, 6, 6, 6, 3, 3, 3. I trained probably over 200 hours in the gym in a month's time, if I was accurate enough. But you know, we spend a lot of time, spend 2 to 3 hours a day, 6 days a week.
So that's pretty much got to be the focus, because you ain't got much time to do much else, right?
Right. Between work and everything else. But the whole point is, you know, I made sure that I had my knowledge and built in that. Okay. Now I'm, you know, and from us talking behind the scenes, you know, I'm not afraid to ask questions. Right. I'm going to ask you 200 million questions. I'm like a 4-year-old. Why this? And the more you know, the more wisdom you have, the more you can apply it. Okay. And you know, that's the reason why also with the modeling, where I ask people, I say, okay, why am I stuck? People only want me to fitness. It's like, well, designers are not going to want to craft something to you because your dimensions are not typical. Right. But, you know, speaking with Andrew, he's like, you know, but you are designers, you just have to find them who don't mind. And great shape and everything.
And I think a lot of it is personality. You know, it's a lot of things that, you know, okay, well, I want to work with him because whether he may not fit that pattern or that mold that the designers are looking for, but he's got something else.
Well, also, you know, I want to preach being healthy. You know, with my condition, or you know, I want to see people healthy. So, I mean, you have models in the industry starving themselves just so they can...
And big druggies and drinking and
just so they can get a spot on In Vogue or you know, Ebony or whatever. And that's not healthy, you know. We're trying to teach our young kids how to be healthy, black, white, Spanish, whatever. And, you know, I feel like I have a bigger obligation to that than anything else.
Wonderful said, wonderful said. Well, you kind of brought that up the piece, and we're going to touch on that now. The whole being healthy piece. And I know, you know, you have posted some really kind of deep pictures recently. You were in the hospital. You want to talk a little bit about what's going on there?
Sure. Went to the United States Marine Corps back in '96. For my grad day, they discovered that I do have a rare case of sickle cell. It's called sickle cell beta thalassemia. It's a form of sickle cell disease. A week after one of my show, to now be considered a national competitor athlete, which is a step down from the next level, trying to get my pro card, become a professional physique athlete. Ended up having a crisis and ended up in the hospital for 5 to 6 days. And this is something I've been battling, you know, since I left the Corps. I didn't have it much when not to recall, I didn't have it growing up, you know, any symptoms or anything. You know, maybe the strenuous training of the military board, you know, had it accelerate itself. But last year I was in the hospital 7 different times. 2 stays were, actually 2 to 3 stays were 7 days or more. But it's something that I've determined not to let it stop me from accomplishing what I wanted to do. You know?
Absolutely. Well, I definitely see that. And that's one of the reasons why I want to talk to you. And that's hence the whole Superman thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it really means a lot. I mean, and you may think I'm being very, it's kind of menial, but it really kind of represents a lot for you as I watch you do what you do. And I knew that about you, so I'm like, this guy's really, really strong. And I see where that Superman piece really kind of fits you. So that's why I really embrace that. I always want to use that image. But that's really tough, and a lot of time. I mean, back when I think I first heard about sickle cell, you don't really hear a lot about it anymore. You know, back in the early, well, maybe late '70s, when you know when it was kind of first introduced, and It had been around for a while, but black people were really worried about getting it, and but then it kind of, then AIDS, and then everybody kind of forgot about sickle cell. But I see what your challenges are, and I see that when you said an episode, what really, real quickly, what does an episode consist of for you? When you went to the hospital, what are the symptoms? Did you get dehydrated? What happens to you?
Well, that day, I normally drink 1 gallon to 2 gallons of water a day when I'm training. Finally got back into the gym this week for a full week. My legs are sore because I did leg day the other day, first time in 3 weeks. So,
leg day. Okay.
Yeah, that's
leg day, arm day, shoulder day, half day, head day.
Yeah, you gotta break them down, man. Hey, so we're doing okay. The doctor actually said that I was the most healthiest and strongest sickle cell patient ever seen.
Wonderful.
And for me to stay into the gym, my concern was for them going to tell me that I had to stop competing and stop lifting. So, we just want to show folks, whether they have this disease or any disease, that, you can't allow it to stop. It's mind over matter. If you tell yourself you can accomplish it, you can accomplish it.
He's the man. He's the man. Wow. Well, that is amazing, man. And I really am glad that you decided to come on and share that. We didn't really rehearse this or plan this. I knew I wanted to touch on the whole health piece and the fitness piece and all of that. So I'm glad you were really candid and wanted to put that information out there. A lot of people definitely will be inspired by your words, and I definitely am inspired by you in more ways than you think. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for doing that. So why don't we wrap this up and let people know, if you want to let people know, like what you're working on, where to find you, and what your upcoming projects and where to look for you before we close out. We got somebody waiting.
Okay.
I think they're in the bathroom. I don't know where they're at.
Okay.
Maybe they're on the roof somewhere.
They're somewhere. I don't know. Hey, they ain't got to come. I take them the whole time. I'm going to get my fuck daddy. Take that. But, you can find me at James Godson, GODSSON Allen on Facebook. Instagram is BXNative, BXNATIVE1. And the next project is I'm doing the Day Soul fashion show tomorrow. That's gonna be down here in DC. Forget the location. I'm doing that for Andrew Noel, great designer, excellent designer.
Which he's been on Style Speaks. I've interviewed him. Did you know that?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Andrew's awesome. We're actually from the same area. He's from Fordham Road in the Bronx.
Okay.
So we're
he's been a guest.
A couple degrees of separation.
I get around, brother.
I know you're going to.
I get the hot ones.
I know I'm going to have to let you know some hot ones. You go to New York too.
Okay.
Right now we're just training. Like I said, we're chasing after a pro card status in the NPC. So I'm in the gym training 5 to 6 days a week. Shout out to Dark Horse Fitness and my coach Stephen Smith out in Frederick, Maryland. Shout out to Ghost Gym out in Frederick, Maryland also. And, just helping. My son had his first photo shoot last weekend. That was pretty cool. All right. So now he's caught the modeling bug. I left out last night to meet up with Andrew. He goes, Daddy, when's my next shoot? So, yeah.
All right, brother. Well, we done gave enough shout outs, and we're going to close it up for this segment of Style Speaks. I want to thank Mr. James Allen for spending some time with me this afternoon. And until the next time, this is Ronald Bird with Style Speaks. We're out.